Welcome back. I'm Amanda Brosana Rios, the Communications Director for National Grange, and you are joining us for our new installment of Cultivating Connections in the Time of COVID. Today we are with a special guest that I wrangled into this program, a very good friend and expert in PR and social media, Murray McDonald. Hey, Megan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm stuck inside.
You are feeling it like everybody else, I assume.
Yes, I'm a people person, so I'm missing the connection. And I think a lot of people are missing the connection right now. But hopefully we're going to come up with ways that we can make more connections and make this work for us because we're all at home staring at Facebook.
Yeah, we are. And I think that that's one of the things that most people don't think about is that if they're home and bored and sitting here watching us, there's other people home and bored that don't even know we're here. So they're just scrolling and they're looking for ways to connect, just like you said. And Granges can be optimizing. They can be part of that connection back to the human world for these folks. And so I'm excited to have you here to talk a little bit about it because I think that you bring some insights that we've been putting a little bit of details out there, but you're going to be able to tell these folks how to provide a better use of their social media. Because if you don't have a page right now, this may be the 102 lessons, so the 101, right? But if you do, there's ways to improve that and get it out in front of new people in your community right now. So the first thing I was going to ask is if you could just give a really brief primer for people, because we have Granges that are set up as profiles, pages, and groups on Facebook. And I'm going to focus on Facebook at first, but then I want to expand into the other social media areas. So can you talk about what the difference between the three are and why you would suggest what you would suggest for them to do?
I would suggest, well, you have your profile, which is basically telling people you're a person. And you have your page, and a page kind of gives you a lot more leeway in having more people follow you. It gives you a lot more leeway in posting, and not only posting, but getting people to contact you in a way that you can keep your contacts. I know people who do pages and I know people who do profiles. I just think it's a more professional look to have a page. Groups are great. If you have a page, you can have a group. But unfortunately, not everybody can get into a group. So you could be kind of talking to, in a little bit of an echo chamber there. But if I were you, I would definitely do a page. And a page also gives lots of people the ability to post. So if you're really good at promoting events, you can post. If you have another person who's really good at coming up with inspirational quotes or, things that are funny that people like to share, you can get them on as well. So for those reasons, I really think the page with a group is the best way to conduct this.
I think I'm jumping a little bit all over the place with this, but you just mentioned something that I have to take a second and talk about. And that's, you mentioned having different types of content. And it's something that we talked about here at our master's conference with our state leaders a couple months ago. It feels like 3 years ago because it was February. So I'm not sure even when that was anymore. But we gave them a list of, 10 or so different content ideas. And some of them included things like inspirational quotes and event posts and those type of things. So why is it important to have different content? And can you talk a little bit about the types of content?
I could talk to this for about a half an hour. Okay. To distill it down, social media is not advertising. Social media is engagement. Now, yes,
so it's conversation, really, is what you're saying. It's not just hitting them with something, it's talking to them.
Exactly. And this is for a few reasons that we'll get into. But I see a lot of people, and I went through a lot of the looking at the different Granges. Some of them people are doing an amazing job. Whoever came up with that bingo, awesome.
Connecticut State Grange has the only, probably, like, that's what she does, is PR and does tons of social media. Terry Fazio is amazing. If your State Grange has a Terry Fazio, you need to be getting them to do your stuff, because she comes up with fantastic ideas.
I also saw some other Granges put up some links to different activities you could do at home. That's good too. But in a perfect world, you would do all of that. And the reason is this. You are competing. Everybody's on Facebook. That's awesome. Everybody's on Facebook. That's really bad. And you are competing with a lot of noise. Posts that ask people to talk back and ask people to share is going to get more attention because people want to react. It's very important right now for people to be heard. So different types of Facebook posts are going to reach those type of people. This is also the number 2 reason why it's important to have engagement posts and different types of posts, is that when people share your stuff and people talk on your posts and people give them heart reacts, not as much as like, but heart reacts, it tells Facebook that this is an important page for people to see because it's people talking to other people. And that is really what they're looking for. They want your ad money. So if it looks like an ad, it's not going to show up on people's pages something important. But if it's people talking to people, that tells the algorithm, you hear about the algorithm a lot, but it's basically telling the algorithm, you know what, this is important, people want to see this, people are talking about this, let's show to people, and you get organic reach. And that's exactly what organic reach is. People talking, people sharing, people getting involved. Facebook notices that and it puts it in people's feeds.
So if I were to take this back to like a real world setting and not this virtual social stuff that sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around, I'm thinking about like when I was at the newspaper and I would go to, different towns and cover council meetings, for example. And so you're driving around different communities and I would see things like, a sign or a bumper sticker for a local business that happened to be on a lot of cars or a lot of houses or whatever. And all of a sudden I started realizing that business is important in my community for one reason or another. Or they're doing just really good advertising, right? And so people think they're important. So I should probably cover them, or next time we have a story about something that's in their lane, go get a quote from them because they're seen as the expert. They're important to these people. So it's the same idea with Facebook. If people are talking about and sharing things from what you're creating, then the algorithm, that thing out there that we can't really see, that amorphous blob, is saying this thing's important. Let's put it on everybody's page who likes it for them to see quickly when they get on and they're doing one of these, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to tell them it's important for this person. It's also now just think about it. I have and I'm not even in the top 1 percentile of friendships, but I have 1,500 friends on my Facebook page. If I share it, that is 1,500 people who have never, maybe 1,500 people have never heard of the Grange, who are going to see it and say, oh, that's great. And let's just say 10 of them share, just 10. But those 10 people have 800-900 friends apiece. How many people have seen your page? And if you put together something inspiring, something even funny for everyone, that's a little harder, but you have now gotten so much advertising. You've gotten so many people connected to who you are, and you've gotten your message out to people who never in a million years would have seen you or heard of you before. That's invaluable.
I think the other part of that goes, it goes a little deeper, is we put out a lot of stuff that we hope that other people use and share from the national range, because we may know that you don't have someone there who's producing certain types of content or whatever. And oftentimes we see people who might like it, but that's it. Or we know it's been seen, but they never share it. So why is it important for people to not just maybe like something, but share it out to another audience if they really do want to see Grange out there?
Well, the minute somebody shares something, it jumps up in importance. It really does. It also, you're reaching people who have no clue, maybe have no clue what you're doing. You know, the Grange has such an amazing message. And right now, that message is needed on a national, not even say national, international level. I have friends on my page in like England and Sweden, and that message is needed on an international level. And if you create content like inspirational quotes or beautiful pictures with inspirational quotes, and people send that out, you're branding yourself as, we'll talk about branding in a second too, but you're branding yourself as kindness. You're branding yourself as a port in a storm. You're branding yourself as a soothing, calming presence in the community. This is a really important time to do that. Mark Cuban had a just recently had an interview where he said how groups and businesses respond to this is going to affect them for 3 to 5 years. So being someone who says, you know, we'll get through this together, we believe in unity, even sharing community resources, just showing the community who you are and that you are a place of kindness is really important on a personal level, but it's also really important for everyone to see.
I think that's another part that I always try to go back to is nothing that you put on the internet is ever gone forever if you delete it, but hopefully what you're putting up there is stuff that you stand behind forever and you're not deleting. And that stuff that you're putting up there, that stuff you're standing behind shows your values. And so if somebody is, for example, 7 years from now, learning about the food pantry that you put in, and they go to your page and they just scroll down a little bit to see who you are, they're going to see some of the stories about when your Grange did something in the local fair and when your Grange did this and that, but they're also going to see these quotes and these messages. And there is a feeling that goes with that is intangible. I mean, you cannot replace the feeling that someone gets when they feel comforted or soothed or welcomed. I mean, there's a couple of those key things that if you share something that will last forever and that someone can come up and see, that provides those emotions for somebody, I don't think that there's a better way to brand yourself. So speaking of branding, what is it?
Well, branding is telling the world who you are. And the best way to do that is have a clear mission statement, have consistent imaging, and have a consistent tone to your posts. There's a lot more to it, but that is the Jeopardy answer. So when you're posting inspirational memes, make sure they are welcoming to everyone and in the spirit of the Grange. I just did a quick, if you have Pinterest, even if just Google and just the importance of agriculture, home, community, quotes about sharing, just some of the quick things that, you know, what your community is all about. And then you go to a free app like Canva, or even just post them using a background on Facebook. You could do that too. But Canva, using Grange colors, using Grange font, and putting the logo in, and it's really not hard. Canva is one of those things that once you hop on there, it'll blow your mind how easy it is. And also, they just let loose so many new free pictures. But Yeah, you want to keep it consistent to what your look is and what your tone is and what you want to convey to other people. And it's as simple as maybe putting a blue heart and saying, "Hey, everybody, check in. How are you feeling?" And you would be surprised. People want to talk to people right now more than ever.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important point because we're getting so many more people responding to things that we put out, just because everybody is missing that social connection.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Canva, and I know that that's something that most people don't know about. I would love to do our screen share, but I will be very honest. We have locked down some of our ability to do certain things on our Zoom channel because we're bringing this to you live. And there have been some folks out there who have nothing better to do than do mean-spirited things, including jump on to other people's Zoom conferences and put up naughty things that we are not all about providing to you during these live streams. So I don't have my ability to share my screen with you to show you Canva right now, but I'm going to put the link in the bottom on the comments. It's canva.com. Canva's great. It's free. There is a paid version, and if you're using it constantly and you want to save a lot of time, like Megan and I, who are doing this all the time, we have the paid version that costs us about $100 a year. But I'll tell you that honestly, you can get away with using the free version. If you're not doing this every day for hours a day, you probably can save that little bit of money you've got in your treasury, and just with some ingenuity, use that free version. Don't you think, Megan?
Yes. And if you're looking for pictures that are free and do not have any copyright issues, because you really want to be careful, it's not to get, some of these companies are being, have nothing better to do right now than to be vigilant about their photographs. And it's only fair. I mean, they take the photographs, they pay for people to take the photographs. But Canva has free pictures, and so does a website called Pixabay. Anything you get off of Pixabay is okay for you to use. It is called royalty free. You can use it. It is not going to get any lawyers involved. You don't have to pay for it. It's free, and you could use it. And if you find yourself kind of stuck, you can get the same thing over and over again. You use a filter because people don't recognize a picture once in red and a picture once in black and white. But Canva is hooked up to Pixabay, and I think Canva is also hooked up to another site. But any of the pictures you use in Canva and any of the pictures you use in Pixabay are okay for you to use.
Yeah, and I also put in the comments section pexels.com, that's PEXELS.com, freepik.com, FREEPIK.com, and then unsplash.com.
Yes, Unsplash.
Unsplash is great. All these are great, and they allow you to use these images for free. There are very few restrictions on ones that are from Freepik, for example, where they ask you to credit the creator, but it tells you as soon as you hit download that you need to do that. So you, as long as you know how to follow directions, will be fine using these things. What I will tell you is it is huge to be able to provide something with some visual appeal. Our posts, if you remember, about 2 years ago, didn't use any of this stuff. Canva was just kind of coming out. We weren't using it. It took a lot of time to curate pictures. You had to use some high-tech programs. It was very time consuming to make things look pretty. And then Canva kind of came on the scene and all things changed. Because now there's multiple other platforms like this, but I think that one's just by far the best. You can make something pretty quickly and get it out and posted without hassle, without having to buy some program that's going to cost you a couple $100, without having to have a lot of specialty knowledge in anything. And our posts from then to now, from text only pretty much to pretty and interactive and encapsulated. something that when somebody hits the share button, all the information's there and it's pretty and it's eye-catching. They have soared in both popularity and in kind of that what we talked about, the organic reach, where people are looking at them. So that's very important because our audience is just like your audience for your local Grange page. And what's
here's a quick picture. I don't know if you guys can see it. I guess you can't. It's it was the ad, one of the ads I did for the local school play, the playbill. I made a beautiful ad for the local playbill. It took me like 3 seconds because I typed in owls. I put in the ad. I said, I put in my stuff, and then it was all there. And it helps you. It centers things. It'll center things to the side. And there's so many templates that all you would need to do if you really wanted to keep something, you know, if you download the Grange logo and you use it.
And the right logo.
Yeah, the correct Grange logo.
The correct one, which has the registered R symbol. It's a round with an R inside of it, not the TM, not the one that doesn't have anything. If you're looking for that and you need that, I'm going to put a link for where you can download it down here in the comments. But you can also contact me anytime and get that correct logo. Okay.
But yeah, it will do that. It will shrink it so that it's not distorted, because that's important too. But you know, just we're looking forward to seeing you again. You know, just things like that. Or, you know, what are you eating? Oh my gosh, what are you eating during the, not quarantine, but what are you eating during quarantine? You would be shocked. I think one of those, I got over 50 people responding to it. They just want to talk about simple things like that. Or, hey, if you're stuck at home, what are some great recipes that you're trying? You know, you don't want to go too far away from who you are, but you have to think about it in a bigger sphere.
Yeah, I mean, they know us for food. They know us for community service. They know us for advocacy or engagement. So if those are the things that your Grange is doing or known for, start a conversation about any one of those topics, because somebody who has never been to your Grange for the bean supper, who has never set foot in your Grange for a potential meeting or open house, will still probably reply or comment on it if they get that to come up on their feed, or if their friends share it or comment on it. And you'll want to make sure that, you know, those posts are public so that friends of friends can comment on things.
Yes, 52 comments on my own Facebook page, and all it is was a blue background saying, what are we going to eat once this mess is over? 52 people have commented on that. And people who live across the country are talking to each other now. And really, engagement posts can be that simple.
And those are important right now. I mean, you're wondering why it matters that you could post something like, what's your favorite quarantine recipe, right? It's because honestly, people will remember that they enjoyed engaging with you when we get back to having the meetings. We've talked about the idea of preparing to throw open our doors and invite people in the day this is over. You know, have just coffee and cookies and say, come on in and socialize with your neighbors. Well, they're going to remember that you were there, allowing them social opportunities now. Yes.
And they will, in your brain, they'll make the connection that, oh, they post awesome posts, or, oh, how funny was I'm going to pay more attention to them. It's a difficult, uncertain time, but it is a unique time, especially for organizations like yours that do good all the time. You actually have a leg up on a lot of other, you know, services and businesses, because you're what's needed. Your organization is what people need right now. You don't have to convince them that they need food. You don't have to convince them that they need things to do around the house, or, you know, you don't have to convince them that they have to help neighbors. You've been doing this. This is not, you know, new to you. It's just an opportunity for you to get more people to know this is who you are.
And I think the one other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is the fact that National Grange and your state Grange cannot post the same type of things with the same type of expectation of engagement as your local Grange can. So there's sometimes where there are things that I really want to post, but I know I'm either only going to get Grange World talking back to me, which is great. But if we're talking about the idea of being out there publicly, that doesn't quite fit that bill. And the second thing that happens is I can't post, you know, we've been talking about this in our community, or connecting in a certain way to a narrative that's already there. I don't know if your community Grange, for example, has a quilt guild or a sewing circle or a whatever. And so if I post and ask for you to share something that's a little bit too specific, that doesn't really match what your Grange does, that's hard. So it's really important for your Granges to have these pages in order to have the conversation in your community, because it's reflecting who you are. Because remember, we're all different, but that's what makes the Grange special. Because my Grange can do something in my community that is a need, but your community, that may not be a need at all. So why would you do that? Which is why you have your programs and projects. So for example, in my Grange, when the sewing mask need is over, I really want to see us post something like, do you still have fabric left over? You know, we're going to teach you how to make a quilt block, because we might already have the masks, but maybe we're not out of containment yet. And so I still have these supplies, and I'm going to make a quilt block because the Grange is teaching me step by step how to do that. And then I'm going to submit that quilt block for a contest. And I have nothing to do with the Grange. I was just bored with supplies that I was going to use.
Yes. If anyone out there is video savvy in any way, shape, or form and knows how to sew, there are so many of us who are staring at our sewing machine and thinking, I can't sew a straight line. Or is it that I can't cut a straight line? Or seriously, if anybody is good with video and you can sew and you can give sewing lessons, you can go on Facebook Live if you have a page, and you can do that, and people will watch, myself included, because
and people will watch because it's their neighbor. It's their neighbor down the street doing it. I mean, I can learn through video, but YouTube videos teaching me how to do something, for example, on my sewing machine, don't go half as far as seeing Earlene down the street doing it and knowing that, you know, my mom was friends with her. And I bet you if I call her and I say, I saw you doing this, and I just set up my machine and I don't have that same bobbin system that you were talking about. Like I don't even know where that is. Let me send you a picture of my machine. The fact that I would basically be able to have a tutor, you know, beyond that, it's so much different than going on YouTube and finding these things. So I think that that's really important too.
Exactly. And I have a teenager, and everyone under 21 is baking bread. So if you are good at that, I mean, this is an opportunity. I am telling you, these kids love to bake. I don't know. I'm very bad at it. I admire baking. I am bad at it, but all these kids are baking like crazy gourmet. My daughter just made lemon cake with lemon zest from scratch, and they're all doing it. So if you have someone who could bake and put recipes up, you may get an audience you did not expect.
And that's something that if you put that up, because you have someone in your Grange who can do it, and you tag me or send it to the National Grange or whatever, I can repackage that, thank your Grange for having, you know, provided the information, and put it out so that when Megan's Grange doesn't have anybody who bakes, she can still steal that, share it, you know, because that's something that is content that will come across someone's feed and they might engage with.
And one of the things I do is, it's called social listening, and it's a very interesting title for something really easy. Pay attention to what people are talking about. Just like what I told you about the kids baking, like that's, pay attention to what people are talking about and just think about how you can relate it back to what you do. Everyone's talking about eating right now. Oh, Nelly, we are all eating. It is going to be, it's just, my summer body is just going to like maybe 2 summers from now. But that's great for you guys to refer back. Um, yeah, social listening is important because it's going to tell you what people are interested in, what people are sharing, and how you can take that conversation and make it into your own.
Yeah, and that social listening idea was actually what prompted our National Grange Youth Director, who is a teacher, and I to talk about what we can do as far as getting some resources in hands for educators who are struggling with figuring out how to go from classroom to digital classroom. So Monday night, we're holding a share and show. So anybody who's a teacher who's come up with a resource or a tool or a lesson, and they figured out how to make it work, can share it with anyone else. And we've been advertising that now. And I think what's important to keep reminding is anything that does not require you just be a Grange member. Like, you have to be a Grange member to come and vote at our meeting. But outside of that, almost anything else that you post, all of your members should be sharing and sharing and sharing, because they have friends who are not members who are seeing what Granges do. They see that they can engage with the Grange, and then they may want to be a part of the Grange to sustain, this continued effort. So it's really important that when you create something, you are getting your folks to, and so all of you are my folks, right? You are getting your folks to share those things out beyond us.
Mm-hmm.
So Megan, I noticed that somebody had mentioned that they've been advertising their Grange. Debbie Fish said, I've been advertising my Grange. Now I need to work more on interaction.
Yes, that's it. That's the key. It's interaction. It's getting engagement, getting people to talk. And it's not hard. It's really not hard. It's just asking people questions, asking for recipes, asking for suggestions, sharing inspiration, sharing laughs that are appropriate for everybody. But that's what gets them interested in your stuff. Because if you're just advertising, you're miles ahead of other people, but you want that page to be a place where they can come and feel like home. And home is what the Grange is all about.
So, all right, let's dig in and make an example. So I asked Debbie what her contest was. I haven't heard back. I know that we have a lag. But let's just take, for example, our quilt block contest.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is our contest that, you can sew a quilt block and you can send it in and be judged, how do you get interaction on a post? I mean, because it's not just putting up, hey, sew a quilt block, send it in, right? What ways would you approach interaction? What types of posts?
Well, I would do a three different posts, because 3 is the magic number. It just is. People need to see something 3 times before they really are entrenched in it. One would be maybe a funny quote about quilting or sewing, or something funny, and you make it in Canva, and you make a picture out of it, and then on the top is, hey, how's your sewing doing? And you make just like, and you can find them on Pinterest, you can find them on Google, funny quotes about sewing. And now in the caption part, you would put, our quilting contest is right around the corner. How are you doing with it? And then people will comment. The second would be maybe a link to sewing tips and tricks from a reputable link. If you're going to link, you've got to make sure that the people you're linking to are very well established, very good companies like Good Housekeeping. Make sure they're the good ones, because sometimes if you link to poor links, it could hurt your page. It's a weird algorithm thing. I don't understand how, but I know it happens. So you need quality links. So I'd put some linking tips and tricks. And then I would put on top of it, what are your tips and tricks? And then the third one would be, post a picture of a family quilt and tell us about it. As simple as that. It's getting people talking about it. People share pictures. It's getting people to talk about other people's pictures. It's not super hard.
I think that's a really good idea because I think all of us probably have a quilt in our house that mom or grandma or somebody made, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe we got made for us if we received a quilt of valor or if we sewed a quilt of valor. And if we have none of that, okay, so we're the part of the population who probably doesn't engage much with that post. But I might still, because I might be like, boy, those look so cozy, or I've always wanted to learn, or anything. I mean, that they just drive conversation. So I mean, I think that that's a really good point, is that your posts can be really simple, and just, if it makes you feel something, it probably makes other people feel something.
I
So
would love to see. I do not. I can't figure out if I can't sew a straight line or I can't cut a straight line. I've been trying, but quilts take my breath away. I just look at those as something that's just somebody made that, and especially the ones that were made by hand. I may never sew a quilt square in my life, but I will go through all of those pictures. I will talk. So, those are the things that get people interested.
So I know that have been spending a lot of time talking about Facebook, but there are other social platforms out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I should mention that if you're using Canva, they have templates that are automatically sized to the right social platform. So you basically say, I'm going to put this on Facebook. I'm going to put this on Twitter. I'm going to put this up as a story on my Instagram. I'm going to whatever. So can you tell us a little bit about what the other platforms are that are common? And then I think we're going to talk a little bit about what are functional and useful for Grange, what could be if you have some buy-in, and what don't really work.
Um, you have Instagram, which is really good if you are really good at making those engagement posts and really good at making visually arresting social media. Instagram's great. Instagram's a little tough nut to crack, but you have to learn your hashtags. But it's very, very good visual medium for people who are good at. You have someone in your Grange that's good at taking pictures. Holy moly, you could own Instagram. You really can. Now you got to make sure that they have, the proper, releases and everything. But if you have people who are great at pictures, and not just pictures of events, pictures of fields, pictures of nature, pictures of, and there are hashtag generators out there that can help you with hashtags. You could really do nice
What's
things.
the hashtag?
Okay, do you remember the pound sign that you used to have to hit on the phone? Well, if you add that pound sign and put a word on it, it helps people who might be interested in that topic find it. So my daughter likes to put photos of her in different Star Wars costumes on her Instagram, and she puts hashtag Star Wars cosplay. And people who are interested in seeing Star Wars cosplay may find her. It's hard. It's again, everyone's using Instagram. That's great. Everyone's using Instagram. That's tough.
And so
There's
our hashtag that we've been using is hashtag Grange Story. So anything that kind of makes you reflect or tell the story of what Grange means in your life, or what is a part of your Grange story, like events or things like that, we've been using hashtag Grange Story. But that's internal. That helps me find things. That helps other Grange members find things that are going on. That helps people who might have heard about this Grange thing over the past couple of days, and they're like, well, what's Grange? I saw Grange Story. Let me click on that and see what else is out there. And then they see posts from all over the place. But it using more than just that. So if you're hashtag Grange Story, hashtag dictionaries, if you're giving out dictionaries to third graders for your project or something like that, it's important to have maybe a couple, because it'll hit a couple different markets, right?
Yes, and always Geo Tag. Always let them know where you are at, because that will help that filter get down to the people who should be seeing it. And you want to get follows, but here's the thing: you want to follow other people as well. because when you follow other people on Instagram, it shows that you are not a robot. And robots are a big problem on Instagram. Like one day you'll have like 1,500 followers, and then Instagram will do a big purge. The next day you have like, wow, where did 400 people go? But yes, you want to make sure when you're posting on that, tag as many people. Tag people you like. Tag your kids' friends. Tagging, and that's also important in Facebook too, is whenever you can tag someone, you tag them. Then you have Twitter. Twitter is a very good platform for breaking news and timely posts. So if your Grange does any type of political advocacy, Twitter is a really good place for that. And Twitter even tells you what's trending. So it'll tell you what hashtag to use if you want to get to people to notice it. Twitter can be a little bit of the wild, wild west, but it's very good for news, events, and timely posts. You have Snapchat. That's when people follow you. It's a visual medium. Your kids will know how to use that very, very well, but that stuff poofs after a while. It goes away. So you have to have a pretty loyal following to really utilize Snapchat well. And then you have TikTok, which is a video platform. If you have people who are really good at video on TikTok, you could really reach a lot of people. It's tough. It's not going to be easy. Again, recruit your kids. If you have a junior Grange, recruit your junior Grange members, because they're better at the video and visual mediums. But if you use that and find the right hashtags, you can be it can be helpful, especially with the kids under, I would say under 25 and under.
So I noticed that we have some comments and questions, and I know we've been kind of going at a very high level here. So there's certainly much more introductory stuff that we could do at another point, but we're kind of giving you this middle ground of if you already have a page, you already have some handle, you're sitting here, you're watching this, so you probably have some handle. So Debbie Fish, who was also the one who had mentioned about advertising the contest, said that she's got contests that are for non-members as well as Grange members. And so some of them had included food preservation, sewing, quilting, cooking, photography, and arts and crafts. So all of those things, I think, are some of the stuff that you talked a little bit about, how you could offer certain types of posts for. And so if there's any ideas that you have on any of those, on how to, especially I'm thinking the photography contest. I mean, most people who are on these social platforms are taking some type of photos. So if you have a suggestion for her for how she can engage people like you, who know about the Grange, people like your daughter who may not know about the Grange at all, but really likes taking photos in that photo contest.
Well, the best photo contest, if it's in person, I've seen a lot of success with people driving people to the page photo contests to get other people to heart react or like their photos. So if you have non-Grange members who are doing the photo contest, throw them up, ask people to heart react and like, and make that judging part a portion of your judging, if not your whole judging, especially for non-Grange members. That will drive so many people to your site, it'll make your head spin. Because people will be like, hey, go here and like my picture or heart react my picture, and that's good. And tag that person in that picture. Make sure that their name is tagged in it, and you will get more eyes on that.
Yeah, I think most of these state Granges are still doing you send in a hard copy of a picture. They're judging. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening in Washington. I'm not positive about some of the other ones. I do know North Carolina's gone to a digital form. I'm just not sure if they've transferred over to having the the People's Choice judging using a social
Yeah.
platform, but most of them are still, you know, submitting hard copies of photos. So it's probably photos that people took while they were
Yeah.
out on their walks or whatever this time.
Well, if you're going to have the hard copies, I'll have to think on that. To be honest with you, I'll let Amanda know what I come up with for that one. But
I'm thinking, I mean, just encouraging people to take photos while they're out,
now,
reconnecting with nature, reconnecting with gardening, reconnecting with.
if you have a page, you can like other pages with that page. So if you see a group in your area, please look through their pictures, because sometimes those photo groups just are not what you want to be, associated with. Look for other Look for photo pages, look for wildlife, people who are interested in wildlife pages, look for people who are interested in conservation, look for people pages and go on those pages, or reach out to the people who run those pages to tell them about the photo contest. That's where you can engage. And you know what? Engaging with other groups is a really cool thing. So that's actually what I would do. I would go and look at different types of groups, different types of pages, or even groups. Reach out to their moderators, let them know what's going on. And usually people want content, because the more people who join groups or the more people who like pages, it's good for them too. So create kind of like a symbiotic relationship. And the same with arts and crafts. So you could take that idea and you could see how quick I can get. Take that idea, reach out to other groups online and let them know about the event for non-Grange members. And that's how I would handle that.
And we had previously 2 years ago and last year, I think, created kind of a packet of information about the National Grange Quilt Block Contest, which is open to anybody across the country, not just Grange members, that could be dropped off at quilt stores. And now, granted, all those quilt stores are closed right now, but they're still hoping to sell fabric. Most of us are buying fabric for masks. But if you're already buying fabric for masks, get an extra quarter of a yard or something like that for your quilt block contest entry. And so right now they don't have posts to put up about maybe sales or maybe about people who came in and brought a finished product or something like that. So they're looking for content for their local stores page to hopefully drive people to buy. So that's something that is scheduled, I think, to post at the end of the week, is our very generic quilt block contest information. But take that, reach out to your local store, either as a message or something like that, and share it with them. Even if you're not a quilter, even if you're not a crafter, reach out and say, hey, you have people who are bored at home, you want to sell more products, encourage them to take part in this quilt block contest.
Okay, I just put in quilting groups on Facebook in my Facebook search, and I found something called Quilting Club. It's 760,000 people like that page. Maybe join it as yourself. Reach out to the moderator. Say, hey, I'm from the National Grange. We're having a quilting contest. Can I put the information up here? They're going to say, some groups are funny. Some groups aren't. They're going to probably say, hey, knock yourself out. There you go. You've gotten 760,000 people eyes on that.
Right. And so that's something that we would do. Right. And so that's something we would do, myself or Chris Hamp, I'm the lecturer, but you have state contests. You even have sometimes Pomona or subordinate contests or whatever. And so, jump on that group if you're in charge of your state contests, or if you have a local contest, or hey, if you create a local contest. I mean, at this point, all things are on the table because people are home and they're looking for things to do. And you may have never had a local cookie making contest before ever, but you may decide that you're going to put one in place. You may have never had a local scarf knitting contest, but you're going to do it because there are knitters at home looking for some reason to knit something amazing. That they don't even have to submit until all of this is over. And maybe you can kind of make that a flexible deadline. But there are ways to definitely engage an audience by localizing some of this stuff in ways that you may never have done before.
Reach out to the high schools. If you're doing anything baking wise, honestly, reach out to the high schools. Those kids, and it's girls and boys right now, are baking up a storm. That is, don't assume that the teenagers aren't doing things, because they're sewing now, they're knitting now, they're baking now, they're doing a lot of things that kids maybe even 10 years ago didn't do in mass groups. I mean, there were always kids who did it, but it's a little more popular because of things like Instagram, believe it or not. But yeah, look at your local groups. Go on Facebook. Those places are now just a gold mine of people looking for stuff to do.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. All right, so one of the folks asked what hashtags mean and how you use them, and also asked about what tagging is and how to do that. And then another one asked about geo tagging. So I think we're going to go back for a minute. We're going to do some definitions, although I have been replying with some resources. So feel free to go look at the links that I've sent with some of those resources. But let's start geo tagging people or things, and then hashtags. What are they and why are they important? Or
okay,
what do they do?
Tagging people is basically mentioning people in a post so that Facebook picks it up and calls it out to them. You do it all the time. It's just called tagging. If you have a page, sometimes you want to tag in the comment section. But yeah, and it's just a call out to a person who, or a place or a business that you think is going to like this. It's as simple as that. And I know if you have a Facebook, you've done that. It's just called tagging. A geotag on Instagram, when you hit a post, there's going to be blocks on the bottom. And where was this taken? And you're going to hit where it was taken. It's like your hometown, or the fairgrounds, or another town, but that's a geotag. Now, a hashtag is something like pound symbol. One thing I love to use is pound symbol Motivation Monday. I use it on Facebook and I use it on Instagram. And it's basically just the pound sign with the words smushed together, Motivation Monday, and all one word. That kind of works as almost a Google within your social media. And it helps people find things that they like. It's not, there are, oops, did I get off? Sorry, there are other ways. That's just another way for people to find you. And there are lots of places to find what hashtags are trending. Twitter is very good for that. But even if you put a hashtag if you're having a cookie contest, we're talking about the cookie contest, hashtag cookies. Hashtag looking for bakers. Hashtag baking.
So we have a couple questions that have come up, and I've been responding with a couple of just simple things. If you have questions, we, will be taking them, obviously. What I will tell you is just a quick PSA, quick advertisement. The National Grange has a communications handbook that has some of the information, but it's pretty out of date. It's from 2012. And obviously 2012, we didn't have some of these platforms we just talked about. We didn't have some of these, we had hashtags at the time, but we didn't have some of these other things going on. So Megan is assisting with the update of that, and some of the former communications fellows as well had provided a little bit of content ideas for that. And so we are working to get that done by probably June with updates. So some of the questions that you're asking here are really giving us a good idea of the starting place and things that need to be explained. So please keep those questions coming. We've still got a little bit of time on here to talk through some of these things. But if you're watching this and it's not live and you have some questions, put them down. Megan is on our page, or at least she likes our page and can see our page, and she can help answer some stuff. I can help answer some stuff. We can provide you some links to resources, so we're very happy to do that. So again, continue to ask questions. One of the comments that Terry Fazio, shout out, we talked about you earlier, Terry, if you didn't hear it, about your Grange bingo during quarantine. Terry mentioned that she sees a lot of Granges using the hashtag TBT. So what's TBT?
TBT is Throwback Thursday. And TBT is awesome, and we're going to talk about why that's important. I'm glad she brought it up. TBT is Throwback Thursday. It lets people travel down memory lane. People love to see their faces online. So if you have a picture of something that happened like a year ago or 6 months ago, right now it'd be 3 months ago when we were all allowed outside, hashtag TBT, you put it up on a Thursday, hashtag TBT, and people who have historically liked things like that are going to be able to find it in their feed. Yes, pictures are good too. People do like to look at themselves.
It's true. People love looking at themselves. And your Grange has some amazing history. I mean, right now is a fantastic time to remind your community of what your Grange has done. So you could type something in, create a post that says something like, that time Syracuse Grange helped establish the playground on 6th and Center Street, and hashtag it with that TBT, that Throwback Thursday. If you have a photo of it, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. But imagine the conversation you could get going if you remind people the things that your Grange has done over the course of time. Same with it, you could do something where you're asking them to submit photos. So 50 years of baked bean dinners have been good to us and our community. Do you have any photos? And solicit those, because that is a way that people can start replying. And if they don't have a photo, they might say, I have no photos, but man, I had this great time, or I did this or that, or I miss going to those, or whatever it is. And they're engaging, which is really, really important. Megan, one of our members, Dawn Ansett, and I believe Dawn is from Connecticut. Sorry, I know Dawn is from Connecticut. Mentioned that she has a problem when it comes to geotagging at their hall, because that's not, so she says, problem with that and our Grange when we geotag is tags where our mail is sent is not anywhere near Grange Hall, and it's problem because it sends people to the wrong place. I think that she's talking, I don't know if that's exactly the same as the geotag that you're talking about. So
no, the geotag I'm talking about is if I would put up a picture of a, we have the St. Clair Halloween parade. If I would put up a picture, I would just tag St. Clair, Pennsylvania. I would tag the town. I wouldn't tag the address. You can also put in your own geotag, but I would tag the town.
Right. So
people from St. Clair who want to see it, not go there. It would just, the filter is going to help people in a certain area find it.
So I know our community, Megan and I are from the same area back home in Pennsylvania. Our community is small, and we identify almost intrinsically with the entire county. Although there is a north of the mountain and the south of the mountain, which are very different things, but we do intrinsically look for things that say Skook or Schuylkill. And so I might even, knowing that there's, only maybe one Grange there or whatever, put the county name in, and just put Schuylkill as my geotag. It's not ideal, right? But I might do that. But the difference between the geotag and what I think Dawn is talking about is that GPS coordinate. And you're right, GPS coordinates are sometimes problematic for Granges, but geotags are something that you can choose. So you can potentially geotag your hall if you know that your community knows your hall. Some places like, and I'm thinking in Connecticut, Ecomp Community Grange is at the triangular corner of 3 communities. It has a Grange name, the name, I'm sorry, is one community. The mailing address is another. And if you talk to a lot of their members, they're from another. And so, but everybody sees and knows that hall. So it's very possible that they could just geotag the hall itself. But the better thing would be maybe selecting the biggest of those 3 towns that are.
Yeah, affected. It's not going to send people there. it's going to act as a filter to get people in that area to look at your pictures.
So if you are suggesting some ideas for us to make sure to include, or if you've read the communications handbook in the past and have any suggestions, we would love to hear those. So please comment with some of those, or we'll wait because I know there's a lag here. But if you're just getting started with getting your page to go from 0 to 90, from okay to glamorous, what are your top couple recommendations?
Ask everybody on your Facebook page to like it. That is my number one. I think I started one and I asked everybody on my page to like it, and overnight I had 300 followers. Also, there are things you have to look out for. I'm not going to totally tell you to do a contest, ask for a like or share contest, because that kind of gets into some gray areas on Facebook. So watch out for those. You really can't. But ask people to like your page. Ask your friends to like your page. Ask people to share your content. Tag people who aren't in the Grange on your pictures. Like, you know, you're talking about the old pictures. Oh my gosh, if you have old pictures and you could tag some of those people's descendants on there, they're going to come to your page. But it's really just asking people to like your page.
And not just people that are in Grange. I think that this is the one thing that I struggle the most with, is we talk constantly about how important it is to let people know what the Grange is, you know, and offer to people who we wish to see with us membership. But then we only invite Grangers to be part of some of our things. There's nothing on your page that you are probably doing that is only for Grange members. That stuff, if you're either doing by email, by phone call, at your meetings, or on a private group on a social platform. So don't just ask your Grange members to like your page, because then you might only have 13 likes. Ask your mayor to like your page. You know, ask, like you mentioned, some of the descendants of some of the most important people from your Grange to like your page. Ask your local hardware store. Ask your local teachers who have gotten dictionaries for third graders from you guys before. Ask people in your community to like your page, because they will also serve as some of that audience who can tell you whether or not what you're doing is relevant. And if you're not doing relevant things, you're also struggling. So it's really important to make sure that who is seeing your content is the mass of people that you look to potentially support your Grange in hard times, join your Grange at any time, be part of the progress of your community because they're supporting or joining the Grange. It's really, really important. And again, that's why it's been very important for us to make sure that we're sharing those things. And then when you're at your meeting, you can tell your people, don't forget to share our content onto your pages, because you know people who are not Grange members who still might be interested in doing a photography contest or a sewing contest, or coming to a bean supper or whatever it is. Because that's all basically unearned media. You're not having to pay a dime to get your message out.
No, and if you tag people, if you mention people in the comment, I'm going to take the word tag away. If you mention people in the comments who don't belong to the page, you're going to go to the page. If you mention people in the comments who might be interested, and people who might be interested may mention other people in the comments, and that's how you get a lot of organic reach. So don't be afraid to ask people. Sometimes social media marketing focuses so much on businesses, because a lot of businesses use that as a way to grow their business. Your brand, your community, your people's good memories, your people's happy times. You can do stuff they can't, because you can ask people, hey, like our page, and they're going to want to like your page, especially if you have, events, especially if you have, the cooking contest. Don't be afraid to ask. You're allowed to ask. You're a good thing. You're a happy thing. You're a thing that brings comfort and joy to people.
So Debbie asked you to repeat what you said was the most important thing. And I'm pretty sure that your most important thing was ask people to like your page. We're on about a 30-second lag. So if you ask us for a repeat, we probably have no idea what we're repeating anymore. We're already, well past that topic. So if you have a question or comment, just know that we're about on a 30-second lag from when we say it to when you see us say it. Terry mentioned that part of the issue is that many Granges do not post consistently or rarely at best. And so when non-members go to the page and the latest post is 3 years old, it does not reflect well. And I cannot echo her sentiments more. It's not just for your social pages, it is also for your website. We gave everyone a Grange.org website many years ago because we knew that when people hear about something, they go on, especially their phone, and they look it up online. And most of our Granges at the time did not have a web presence. So we made sure to provide one for everyone. The Granges who have never taken advantage of that and put up new content, it's still showing that in 2002 or 12, I'm sorry, the post was from 2012. If you see that something has been posted from 2012 and literally nothing else done, someone will assume that that Grange is not there. Or if they do know it's there because they went to their bean supper, they went to their fair, they went to their whatever, they're going to assume it's mismanaged. I mean, that's just the reality of that situation because you have not claimed the presence that you have. But if you've claimed a presence on a social platform and you're not posting consistently, and again, you don't have to create the content. You can literally be sharing the content that we're creating or whatever. That is a real hindrance. What do you think, Megan, about how often should people be active? What does it mean when you see that they're not?
Unfortunately, we now live in a world where you cannot afford to not be a social media presence. I wish I could tell you it's okay not to. Not really, I do social media, but it is, you need to be a presence. Your presence on by you not being on social media, you are telling everyone that the Grange is not relevant, that the Grange is not for the entire community. You're saying more by not posting than you would if you put up an imperfect, hey, how's everybody doing today? Give me a heart post. This is where people are. This is where people are getting their news. This is where people are sharing their lives. This is where people are sharing pictures of their children. This is where people are sharing the latest recipe. This is where you need to be. You don't need to be there every day. There's a lot of noise, but you do need to be there at least 3 times a week. And I know that seems a lot for people, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be there.
And it doesn't have to be locally made content 3 times a week. I mean, it would be almost impossible for a Grange that meets once a month to create something brand new off the top of their heads 3 times a week. But if you were going onto the National Grange page or your state Grange page, if it is active, and sharing or resharing, or just saying, hey, guys, we're looking for fair entries. Don't forget our fair's in August, once a month or so. You are doing the service that you need to be doing in order to show people that you're relevant. Now, the one other thing that we've talked a little bit about is that this isn't the only platform, but certainly for the community that we tend to do best with and touch the most, this is the most relevant platform. Because I think we've all discussed, it's very, very hard for a community of individuals who might be 30 years or 40 years older than maybe a teenager, for example, to go and have an interaction with that teenager that feels authentic and that doesn't feel a little strange, to ask them to become part of Grange. So the teenagers aren't really here. I mean, they're on other platforms at this point, right? There's a lot that don't even have a Facebook account, for example. But there's very few Granges who are made up of all teenagers and 20-somethings and early 30-somethings. So if that's not the profile of your Grange, then having the excuse that we don't need to be here because not everybody has a Facebook, especially young people, is not really a relevant excuse, I think, right? I mean, if you are a Grange that has teens and 20 somethings and 30 somethings only, or primarily, there's probably somebody in there who's already put you on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, taking that initiative, and allowing the youngest person in your Grange, if you're in that situation, to take the initiative, to get on those other platforms is great.
Kids, I mean, if you can engage, if you have younger people, they're so good at, they're called native users. They have, my youngest daughter does not know a world without social media. If you can, reach out to them, let them know what's going on, they are happy to help. It takes them 3 minutes. So, if you feel that you're not reaching the younger demographic, grab a younger demographic and ask them and see what they can do for you. It's engagement on social media, but it also is an opportunity to engage within your community and within your life to build a strong social media presence.
Somebody in your Grange probably has a grandkid that just thinks that they are the most amazing person in the world, that thinks that they're the best, male or female, on earth, and is willing to do for them, setting up, keeping up, posting to social media. They clearly need a little guidance to make sure that they're not posting something that's, offensive or political, leaning partisan wise or anything like that. But I mean, these kids, there's somebody who will help you typically. But the excuse that, well, we're not on Facebook, or our members aren't all on Facebook, so we shouldn't be doing as much on there, or we shouldn't be taking the time. I mean, what alternatives do you have, or do you think that alternatives aren't necessary? It's just important to be there.
Your members may not be on Facebook, but people who might want to be members are on Facebook. Your group may not be on Facebook, but people who are going to come to your events and help you fundraise are on Facebook. Your people, even if it's just to get an email list together and shoot out an email list, everybody's on email. I helped my 89-year-old aunt jump on social media, and she loves it because she loves to see people and the young people and talk to the young people and see people they haven't spoken to before. Sometimes it's, a little crazy, but because she's older, but just because you're not on it doesn't mean that it's not an important part of your entire package. That's where the people are. That's where the socialization, especially now, is happening. That's where people check and see what's going on the weekend, the events, creating events. So, it's the reality.
So I think that we're running out of both time and questions, which is okay. But what I want to reiterate is that we are working on the communications handbook. We are figuring out what exactly you need in there. One day we will not need little photos and information on how to set up a page or set up an Instagram account or something like that. But we know that today there are Granges who are still struggling with figuring out how to do those things. The native users aren't there holding their hands. So if there's something that you think is kind of a silly request of something to include in there, that's okay. Let us know, because it may not be silly at all. Or we may be able to get you just a quick one-pager that will be useful for you, or a reference document that will be useful for you, especially, I mean, there's lots and lots of places out there that you can Google search something and get information. But I think between Megan and I, we have a pretty good handle on what the places are that are useful, get to the point, show you how to do it, aren't 4 years old and giving you graphics that are no longer relevant and information that's no longer relevant. So we can get that information to you. In the meantime, I think, again, we're just really, really pushing you to share the content down share it out, share it to your page for your Grange, and share it on your profile. Because yes, some of your friends will get sick of hearing about Grange, but some of them will really get intrigued by what they're hearing. And I think that we see that more than we see anything else. So hopefully we'll be able to gather some more momentum here. As Megan mentioned, I mean, this is the time that folks are getting interested in all of the things that is Grange, I mean, to its core. So it's time. And I guess, Megan, the last question I have for you is, what happens if we don't, if we already haven't been here and doing this well, and we miss this opportunity? I mean, what does it's not just that we missed an opportunity, isn't it? That we also, I mean, what effects do you see if we're ignoring the opportunity?
If you're ignoring the opportunity, you're just not going to grow. That's just what it is. You're not going to let people know about your organization. And, let's face facts, there's a lot more out there than there used to be. You need to make sure that you hand this tradition of community service down to another generation of people, that this does not stop. If you don't embrace where the people are, you're going to face an uncertain future. And I don't want to set in doomsaying, but there's a lot of noise out there, and you have to cut through the noise with your message.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, I mean, a place where Grange couldn't be relevant today, because I think a lot of us lament where we are with this hyper partisan culture, where no one on one side can do anything right, and those type of things. I think we lament that some of the younger generation doesn't have or embrace certain skills, or when they do, that we're not able to have that cross-generational experience and those type of things. I think there's a lot of things that we see that Grange is built to fix, or Grange is built to help with. There is a place for Grange today, almost more than ever, in a lot of ways. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're telling people that we understand that there's a place for us and that there's a place for them at our table. Okay, so we're gonna log off here in a minute, because it's been an hour and a half of good conversation. But again, we encourage you, please post some questions or comments below, but also you can email them to communications@nationalgrange.org. That's communications with an S. This book we're working on for about the next month, and so please, as soon as possible, send us some of the things that you would like to see in that communications handbook. It certainly covers much more than just social media. It also covers, what is branding, and how can you use our logo appropriately? What is kind of the brand tone that you're hoping to set? How do you use the Grange.org websites that we have? What are the specific brand colors, so that if you go and take something to a printer and they ask you, well, what blue do you want? There are multiple shades of blue, so what blue works? Those type of things are included, but we're looking for ideas and kind of the starting place for some of the other stuff. So Megan, thanks for joining us. I know that I'm going to ask you to come back and talk about some very specific things based on some of these questions.
I'm so glad I was able to have the opportunity to talk. I hope I was helpful. I hope people got some great ideas, and I hope people feel a little more comfortable about posting. I know sometimes I get almost scared about posting, even at this point, in doing this. But I just hope everybody got some really good information out of this.
Absolutely. I think the other thing you should know is we have a Communications Fellows program. Every year at convention, we do a 9-day hands-on communications program that teaches people how to do communications for their Grange. And it is from bottom up in a lot of ways, because we always have folks who are, struggling to access just some of the basic communication principles, all the way to people who may have studied it in college but haven't applied it for a long time, or have but not in the Grange setting. So it's a fun program. It is open literally to every Grange member, 14 and older. We have had people who are 16 all the way up to 84. So it is it's a stressful week. It is long days and long nights. But I mention this because I think that when we have the application come out here towards the end of April, that it would be a really good program for you to consider. And consider especially for some of the young people who might be in your Grange looking for ways to be asked to do more. It gives them a little bit of a validity, because your Grange members will believe that they've been trained in the way to do things for Grange. So consider looking at them and asking them if they'd like to participate. And Megan will be joining us as a guest lecturer from what I understand from what we're planning. So it'll be a great experience to have her there and talking about stuff. And she's figuring out just where she's going to have to get started with everybody.
I have a pretty good idea. Thank you so much for everybody who hopped on and asked questions, because when you let me know what you need, I can give you more.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Again, remember, if you have questions, if you have comments, please email them. Please put them below. We'll be watching this. We'll be working on some stuff. We're hoping to drop a few more of these 1-page or 2-page info sheets for you. That communications handbook will be available in the National Grange store probably by June, and will be obviously available for free on our National Grange website, because we want you to be able to use it, and we'll be able to pick out parts and post them here to help you with some things, and we'll be able to come to you live and talk about some very specific parts of that manual. So as you have questions and comments, we welcome them. Thanks guys so much for joining us. We will see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow, Joan Smith is going to join us at 3 p.m. Eastern. She's going to be talking about the Grange Foundation, what it is, how it's important to the Grange's mission and to the future of the Grange, and how you can be a part as a benefactor. So we look forward to having Joan Smith on here. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thanks again, Megan. Everybody wash your hands.